There is a new growth order in the world with countries like Indonesia, South Africa, Vietnam in the fore. Thailand, for example, is forecast to grow at an enviable 4.5 to 5.5% in 2013, aided by robust private consumption and investment. Obviously, the trade winds are shifting course as well. Just how significant are these shifts? I'm going to put that question to Olarn Chaipravat, advisor to the Prime Minister of Thailand and president of the Thailand Trade Representative. I'm going to start with immediate events, Mr. Chaipravat. Thailand has just announced the beginning of talks with the European Union for a free trade agreement. Now, you're handling those talks, you're leading those talks. Does that mean that despite the new growth dynamic that we're talking about, the pillars for conversations and negotiations are still the same old ones? The EU talks are critical to Thailand, aren't they?
Yes, they are critical, but we believe that the mode of discussions and the negotiation would shift a bit. As you might know, that we have had about 3 or 4 years of the stoppage on the negotiation, and now we restarting again, and we certainly hope that the new discussion would be taking on the more fruitful directions, and we are planning to get new elements into the discussion, not only traditional issues on intellectual property, on service, on healthcare. We also would like to make sure that the free trade negotiation that we are conducting with the EU would also lead to what is called fair trade as well. So free and fair trade would be our objective with the EU.
And you reckon that with the resumption of these talks, the European Union is also going to be in a different space, mentally speaking, to accept the focus on free and fair trade?
Well, the European Union is going through adjustment period.
Yes.
And
does that make it more open to a free and fair trade conversation, or does it make it more restricted to a free trade conversation? I'm wondering, what is the psychology that you're picking up?
I think if you are confronted with rather sluggish growth like the EU would be facing, you are naturally looking for new ways and means of fostering the growth. And I think that in the current environment of trade relationship between the developing and developed countries, that you need to do a lot more on bringing the new things which are innovative and bringing in more stakeholders into the picture, and particularly making sure that the results of the free trade would also lead to fair results for all.
You're a very experienced hand when it comes to trade talks, global trade talks. Now, in the context of the Growth Net, for example, Thailand, how much of its energy and focus is on traditional partners, traditional conversations with the EU, for example, and how much of the focus is on some of the newer emerging countries that we're talking about that are becoming hotbeds of growth?
Well, we just going through a period of ASEAN Economic Community implementation. We have set a target date of year 20 and 15 for the implementation of the ASEAN Economic Community arrangement. So we are working currently in all aspects to make sure that when the time comes, all the sectors of the economy and all the stakeholders are ready to enter into a new mode of free flow of goods, services, capital, and very importantly, human resources across the borders of the 10 countries. So connectivity, both physical and cultural, very important for ASEAN countries to accomplish its objective of being united together into one country.
Mr. Chaipravat, where then does it leave the WTO and the global trade talks? Pushed back further?
No, not really, because the ASEAN has about 600 million people. But to the north of us is China, where there's 1.2 billion people, and to the west of us is India, with the same 1.2 billion people. So the three blocks together, that's already 3 billion people involved. So we need to get the whole block together, in a sense that we need to work together to foster the strong growth of the three areas of Asia: China, India, as well as ASEAN.
So you still continue to see the relevance of the WTO? It's too early to say it's a write-off.
The
Doha
WTO,
round.
the Doha round has its own life. And I think the regional players like ASEAN, China, and India would certainly like to have our own life in terms of fostering the free and fair trade cooperations in the area. So I think the same thing happened in more industrialized countries, like TPP and other arrangements are being discussed. And also, if you look north, you have preliminary talk about economic partnership and cooperation among China, Korea, and Japan. So I think these regional cooperation arrangements would more or less take away the central role that the World Trade Organization has been going.
Okay, point taken. So the central role may be taken away of the WTO, but at the periphery, it will continue to provide a structure and direction. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Chaipravat.